we are all gathered here today because a few weeks ago, I bought an Xbox. There it is in all its glory. I made a video about it, not expecting a whole lot, and it went crazy. This is pretty much the part 2 to that video because I made another purchase. This time, it was not $100. It's so hard, like, showing off electronics because look how reflective it is. And, like, you can see my stuffy net in the corner. Look, I got another one in that corner. It's extra pretty right now because I just put a screen protector on it. Oh, glorious. I bought this 2 days ago, but when I bought it, I was so busy that day, doctor's appointment, and then I had evening plans, so I didn't get to touch it until yesterday. I've done all of the updates, downloaded some games, tested things out, and I have some thoughts. So in that original video, I talked about why I wanted a Steam Deck and why I decided I couldn't get one. But to sum it up, I was saving for a Steam Deck for months. I had enough money put away for it, which was about $800 Canadian. I was waiting for it to come back in stock, and when it did, it was released that it was now gonna cost $1,300. So I had 8. Now it's 13. So the price jump was pretty extreme. Obviously, I could have gotten the other model of the OLED, which I think was 1,100 Canadian, but it just didn't seem worth it with the hardware specs and everything. I didn't feel like it was the best value for my money. So I got a console. Why did I get a console? Well, I've wanted to play GTA 6, which by the way, I got a lot of comments on that video being like, you can't play GTA 6 on Steam Deck. Yes, I'm aware. But it was a determining factor in me getting the console because I realized, I can't play it on PC at least for a while. So I did want to get a console already. I already had that money saved up for the Steam Deck, and it made me realize the whole reason I wanted a Steam Deck was so I could be more comfortable while gaming. I could sit in my bed rather than at my desk, which I sit at all day long for work, and a console can provide the same thing. They're very different, but in my use case, like I said in the video, there's a Venn diagram, and there was a lot of overlap for how it would be practical in my life and why I wanted a handheld. So why didn't I just get this from day one? Number one is the whole GTA thing, why I wanted a console to begin with. Although, of course, now that they're not doing the physical pre-order, I guess it's so people can't like steal it out of manufacturers and leak it, which makes sense, but is also just so annoying. And I'm not gonna pre-order a box with a code in it. Personally, no shade to anybody who wants to. It's just my personal preference. So I'm not gonna be pre-ordering it, but I'm still excited to play it, and that's why I now have an Xbox. I also got this Xbox for $100, may I remind you, okay? Steal of a deal. But I also said in that video that if I lived in a universe where I didn't get the Xbox for $100 and I could talk to that universe self, my cat is climbing from underneath my bed, I thought it was a demon. If I could talk to that other universe self, I would tell them to, yes, spend all of the money and buy the Xbox. And to be honest, I stand by that. I think having a console like this is fantastic. So why did I get a handheld 2 weeks later? With a handheld, you can move around, and no one needs to be told that. It's kind of obvious, okay? With a handheld, you have versatility in where you're able to game. But why, in my case, would I get a handheld after just getting an Xbox? And why would I get this one? I decided that since I did save quite a bit of money from the purchase of my Xbox, and I am worried about prices going up. I think they just released that Xboxes are now raising the prices of their consoles. And I do think that majority of people do not need to go out and just buy hardware because, oh no, what if it goes up in price? Because you're not actually saving money if you were never going to get the object to begin with, or if you're never going to use it. In fact, you would save more money by not buying anything if you already have everything you need. I just knew that a gaming handheld would be something valuable in my collection. I do have a Switch 2, but that performs very differently in my opinion, and I love my Switch 2, but I do want to figure out what kind of PC handheld gamer am I, and especially with the fact that prices may go up and they may never go back down, and I've never experienced a PC handheld. I want to know if they are something that I should invest in for the future. For all I know, I may fall in love with it, use it so much that eventually I'll know exactly what I'm looking for in a PC handheld and save up for my dream item, or I could barely use it. In more like selective cases, I'll find it useful, but in majority of them, it doesn't really have a place in my sort of gaming rotation. Everybody's different, and I wanted to learn my preferences. This whole channel is, of course, me documenting my journey of figuring out what kind of games I like, what kind of gamer I am, how do I operate, all those things as an adult because I didn't do them when I was a kid. And this is sort of like an extension of that. I want to know, will I love this thing? Because I think I will. I do think that I'm going to really enjoy my PC handheld, but I don't know what that's going to look like. So that's what I'm trying to figure out. And that's why I went with the cheaper Xbox Rogue Ally rather than the X. I really started thinking that in my personal use case, it made more sense for me to to save the money and get the non-X version to experiment with, to try things out with. There were a couple reasons I decided not to splurge. I am normally the type of person that if I can afford it, I will pay extra money to get something better, because if I'm going to use something daily, I want it to feel good. I want to enjoy it to its fullest. I actually went to Best Buy and I tested both of them out. They had them on like a little display, and I realized that the more expensive version, although does have better hardware, it doesn't feel any better in my hands. In fact, I kind of found it to feel a bit cheap. The screen is also the same, and it's not an OLED, which is really sad in my opinion. I totally would have splurged if it was. I also think that neither looks particularly better than the other. I do prefer the all black look because I think it looks nice and sleek, but the white version I think also looks pretty good. I wish all the buttons were white. I don't know if there's a way to like mod it or change it up or anything. I've seen people do that on other stuff. I don't know if that's an option with this. I also don't know if I'd be comfortable doing that because I fear I would somehow light it all on fire. But to be honest, the like black buttons against the white kind of has grown on me. I also don't mind that there's like a black border. With the black version, you don't notice the black border around the screen because the entire thing is black. It just kind of blends in. But obviously with the white one, it really jumps out. I had heard some people mention that bothered them, but it doesn't really bother me. This little stand, completely cardboard, which is so funny. I think it looks nice. I just think it couldn't have been plastic. I will say the speakers on this thing, loud, which is nice. Like you can really hear things. This is the black border I'm talking about though. It doesn't really bother me and I don't really notice while gaming. The one thing that does bother me more than anything else is these goddamn LEDs. I was so excited. I love LEDs. I love changing the colors up to be like more personable for me. I love customizing things. It's so fun. It's one of my joys with anything in life. I love decorating. I love making things aesthetic. These things stink. The options, just awful in my opinion. You can do static or you can do breathing, which looks like this, but I hate when they fade in and out, just not my thing. Strobing, which is even worse. There's also a color cycle. You don't have any options as far as choosing the colors go for this one. It just does like a rainbow order. And you also have this one, which is just rainbow and they kind of move and go throughout. It is pretty if you like that sort of thing. I like my LEDs to normally be like a warm color or like a dimmer purple. I also do like it when it moves, but there's no option in here for me to customize the color and make it move. I just didn't hear anyone talk about this. That's why I'm kind of mentioning it. I have it on this sort of like orangey color, which I think is cute. I like it. It's a very minor thing. It's a very personal thing, but it does bother me, I think, more than anything. But that to me has been the only con of getting this device. I'm so happy that this is the one that I purchased. I had heard people mention that this was one of the lighter handhelds that you could get. So I was honestly not prepared for how heavy it is after like long periods of playing. So yesterday I worked the entire day getting this thing working, trying things out, testing things, seeing what I liked, seeing what worked, customizing it, which I love. And my wrists actually did feel it. Now I might be a bit of a weakling and a little bit of a wimp, maybe that's why, but I do think it goes to show further why I think getting this was such a good idea. I now know what to expect when people are comparing weights and talking about the weight of a handheld. Before, when I had heard people talk about when a device is light or heavy, because I didn't really have anything to compare that to, I didn't think that it was actually a determining factor into what I was looking for, but now I think that it does. I'll still play around with it and I'll learn further, but that's just the first example of why I'm so happy that I got this device. So I want to talk about why I didn't get the black one more in depth, because the main difference is the hardware difference. And so why did I not think that the hardware difference was enough for me to spend the extra money? I want you to know my cat is just like balancing on my knee right now. He's adorable and I love him, but he just has to be involved with everything. Anyway, so I watched a lot of videos comparing the gameplay differences of the Xbox Rogue Ally X versus the non-X, the white one. I'm mostly just going to call them the black model and the white model for convenience sake, because it is a lot to regurgitate. But when comparing the models' difference in gameplay, I just didn't think it was enough to spend the extra money. It seems like a lot of middle of the road games ran similarly if the white model had very low settings and like less of a resolution, which aren't really things that bother me that much while gaming, especially for like middle of the road games. For higher end games, neither one could play it very well, which makes sense. They're both mini PCs. They're fairly inexpensive, right? You can't expect them to run the same as like a $3,000 PC. But once figuring out that you can stream your games from your PC or your Xbox to these devices and neither model will perform better when doing remote play, it made total sense to me to get the cheaper version. If I want to play higher end, I will simply remote play them from my computer. Especially since the battery life on either of these aren't particularly great. There's not very many cases where I would take this device on like a road trip and only need it for like 2 hours, you know? If I am out and about, I'm going to be playing indie, low spec games natively. But if I'm in my house next to a charger, then I will have freedom on what I play. So it didn't matter to me that the black model could run like middle of the road games better, because in my personal use case, I won't really need it to. At least I don't think I will. Of course, all of this is a learning curve and journey for me. I don't really know much. I'm also not very technologically smart. My other cat is now playing with a spring and is running across the living room. That's why I don't normally record out here, but I wanted to because like it's a handheld, you can be on the go. So I'm on the go. So to sum up, for my personal use case of either of these devices, the specs were not going to play a major factor in how much I'd be able to utilize the device. I hope that makes sense. And it's not like these devices are priced different by like a few $100s. It's double the price. It was $750 for this model, and then it was $1,500 for the black model. And the differences just weren't worth that extra money. So I decided that I was gonna get a handheld. I just knew that since everything is just gonna keep going up in price, and since I don't have a handheld already, I really think that I could enjoy it a lot. I knew that I was gonna have to look into getting some handheld models. So after a lot of research and trying to figure out what I wanted and feeling the handhelds in person, this was the decision that I decided to go with, and I'm so far very pleased with it. I also think that although $750 isn't like nothing, it's not a small amount of money, but it also felt a lot easier of a financial choice to make rather than spending $1,500. But I sort of ended up paying, well, actually over $1,500 on some other technology purchases that have been on the list of things for me to buy. Things that I actually feel like I need. The first one being a second monitor, especially with streaming. I have been wanting to get a second monitor for so long. Since I was already prepared to buy the black model for so long, I was already prepared to spend $1,500. So when I decided to get the cheaper one, I was like, wait, I'm like saving so much money, so all this money is kind of like free. But like I said, these were things that I did need. I'm not just like going on a big shopping spree here. But once I like laid it all out in my head, the math just felt even more comfortable. Like I spent $750 on this. I bought some other stuff that I wouldn't have been able to buy if I had bought the black model. And so it did make me feel even more confident, like this was the right decision. Sometimes with money, it can kind of feel like meaningless numbers, but it does mean something. And it's important to remember the value that you're getting out of something. I think this is important, especially in my case, because there's a lot of things that I don't have. And this goes beyond gaming. I grew up very poor, and as I entered into my adult life, I didn't have a lot of things that I needed. Like clothes, for example. I had 2 pairs of pants. I had stitched those pants up so many times. I only had 1 pair of like really crappy $10 Walmart shoes, and I live in Canada. It's cold. It snows here, okay? I needed some boots, but I didn't have any. I didn't even have proper winter gear elsewise. I didn't have gloves, a good enough jacket. I would walk to work and it would be like -35. That is so cold, and you will go so like pins and needles and it will burn. I can tell you that much for free. So the point being is buying all of these things is expensive. It costs hundreds of dollars. Buying proper bedding or a mattress, furniture. My phone, for several of my adult years, the microphone was broken. It was old. I couldn't call anyone. I couldn't record videos on it. So this did result in a lot of years of figuring things out, but I have learned a lot throughout the years. I'm very lucky to be in the financial situation that I'm in today, and I'm very lucky that I was able to get this device. I also think I've learned enough to figure out where priorities are and to look at the list of the things that you want or the things that will be productive for you to have, and to figure out where you need to spend a lot of money and where you need to spend less money. With technology, it just so happens to be that you kind of have to spend a lot of money no matter what. And although it is nice to get the best, shiniest thing in the world, sometimes the cheaper option makes so much more sense, and it will make you just as happy as the extra cool thing. Now, we started this section off with me talking about how I bought some other stuff with the extra money that I didn't spend on the black model. One of those things was the second monitor. It costed me $500. It was on sale. I also got an Elite Series blah 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 Xbox controller. I don't know what the exact name is. My sister's boyfriend had one, and I loved that controller. I was able to play with it a few times before I had gotten my own controller, and I got a cheap controller. They don't feel the same at all. I don't know what it is, but I love the way this feels in my hands. All of the buttons, amazing. The like stickies, the stick things, joysticks, they're great as well. Are they called joysticks? I remember I was trying to get something for a friend because her PS2 controller had stick drift, but I called it Joy-Con drift or something like that. And I got kind of giggled at because I didn't realize that Joy-Con is like only a Switch thing. But anyways, point being, the stick things, they feel nice. I also don't know what it is, but I hate, it's terrible to touch, this rigidy plastic grip stuff. But this is much nicer. It's like a softer plastic, rubber. I don't know. But the point of this video isn't to show off my new fancy things, but to say these are the things that I was able to buy by saving money. This was $200. I got it on sale. And then finally, I bought a monitor arm. A monitor arm was another thing that I really, really wanted. And although it is mostly for aesthetic purposes, it's also functional in the fact that the base stands of monitors, because monitors are so heavy, they can be bulky and just a lot down there. To save room on the desk, a monitor arm is so useful. And that was $250. So the running total of everything that I bought was $950, which means that I spent about an extra $200 than if I had just bought the black model. But these are pretty crazy upgrades for me. These are things that I've been dreaming about for a very, very long time. And I would not have been able to purchase them now if I had purchased the more expensive Xbox handheld. Or if I had bought a Steam Deck for that matter. The Steam Deck's price is just absolutely insane to me. I do not think it's worth the $1,300 at all. Now that the Steam Machine is released, which I was even curious about, especially after getting the console, it made me realize, oh my gosh, how much do I love playing games not at my desk. The Steam Machine could have been perfect, but it's not Valve's fault that AI has destroyed the gaming parts economy, or computer parts, I guess. But as a consumer, it's just not reasonable, and I cannot justify spending that much money on what it performs and what it does. I know you can get Windows on the Steam Deck. I don't know how difficult that is, but having Windows instead of SteamOS is actually so fantastic, and I didn't even realize until I got the Xbox Rogue Ally and I started fiddling around with it. I immediately downloaded Stardew, because of course I did. Stardew Valley is one of my all-time favorite games, and I realized I know how to download mods on my computer. This is a computer. I can download mods so easily. I got a few mods to change how things look. Oh, it just looks so good now. It's just got that dark, gloomy aesthetic that I love so much. And I'm sure I could have done it with the Steam Deck, but it was just ridiculously easy to do it with this thing. I also attempted to learn how to emulate. That took me a while. It hurt my brain, and I just gave up. So it also taught me that maybe emulation isn't my thing. I don't know, maybe I'll try again one day, but so far where I'm at right now, after what I experienced, I don't really want to delve back into it. I don't mind the learning aspect, and I don't mind the like being confused or not having like information like laid out clear as day in front of me. But I think the reason why the information isn't laid out clear in front of me, the reason why nobody wants to talk about it so publicly online, it just scares me. It gives me a little bit of anxiety. So I think that might be the end of my emulation journey. We shall see, I don't know. But besides Stardew Valley, what else have I been playing? I tried remote play from both my PC and my Xbox. They both seemed great. It obviously isn't like a super flawless experience, especially depending on the game that you're playing. I played GTA 3, which was perfectly fine. And then on my computer, I remote played Crimson Desert. It didn't look the best, but I also know that I have to learn how to like customize each game a little bit more. I know you can like change the resolution and stuff, and that can make a big difference. But I don't know, I still got a lot to learn. From what I tried though, I had a lot of fun, and I definitely can see myself playing a ton of games through remote play. What I especially love about the fact that I now have something that can play Steam games is the fact that I can play it on my computer, and then when I'm like, I just want to be anywhere else but this chair, I can pick it up exactly where I left off on my device, and depending what game it is, I don't have to remote play it. I can just play it natively on the device. That is such a big deal to me. After I got Game Pass, I played a game on my laptop, and then I checked it out on my Xbox, and I was able to do like a cloud save thing. That was like the breaking point. That was like the needle that broke the camel's back. I realized how much that feature meant to me, because I do love gaming at my PC. It's just some days I can't sit in this chair after I get all of my work done. Even if I had the comfiest chair in the world, sometimes it's also just nice to like kind of change the scenery up a little bit and change where you're sitting. But yeah, that was the moment that I realized I would love a handheld that can play Steam games. I'm just really excited to keep experimenting, to keep learning about myself and about video games. Once I get a little bit more settled with my handheld, I really want to do another video kind of just talking about like the ecosystem of how I'm gaming and what I'm gaming on, how I'm using the devices that I have, the technology that I have. And I would also love to show off my desk once I get the second monitor and the monitor arm. It's gonna look pretty baller over in this corner. Y'all are not ready. I'm gonna look like the coolest guy around. You have no idea. Thank you all again so much for all of the love that I have received on my channel. It's been just mind-blowing. I love reading all of the comments, even if I can't respond to them all. Sometimes I just don't know what to say also. I'm a little socially awkward and maybe not the best at socializing, not the most clever. And sometimes I think I come across as a bit odd. So then I kind of just like sit there and stress about every single comment, and I'm like, wait, what am I gonna say? How do I word it? Wait, that was too weird. No, I can't say that. But I do read them all and I love them all, and it feels so authentic, which I love. The part that I love about social media so much is truly seeing what people's opinions are, talking about what I'm passionate about, hearing about what other people are passionate about. It's just so cool how I can make these videos and anyone can see them and anyone can say whatever they'd like about it, even the hate comments. I like those too. I think they're funny. But it truly has been incredible watching the channel grow and seeing all the support. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and goodbye.